Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Woo. Happy Wednesday. Middle of the week, man. Weekend is almost here. I am counting down the days. I can't wait. Because goddamn, the weekends treat me well. But listen, Jamin Davis is on the radar. Can he improve upon what was a difficult rookie season? There's some things that's being said about him in training camp to this point. There's a couple other nuggets that we're going to get into today. The Washington Commanders morning show on this good Wednesday is starting up right now.
Chop it down, chop it down, you gon' chop it down. Chop it down, you gon' chop it down.
I just appreciate everybody
Down, set,
man.
watch him throw the ball, we gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through fourth and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders, heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Dive.
What's going on, y'all? Good morning once again. Woo! I hope y'all are doing well, right? I'm just logging into my little work laptop and shit, so I won't get in trouble on my side, you know. Keep that a secret on my side. But yeah, man, appreciate everybody checking in. That's tuned in right now. Let's get into the administrative item right quick. And whichever way you are listening or watching, Twitch or YouTube, right? Just make sure you hit that like button or that subscribe button if you are new to the channel. It's appreciated. You know, it's always appreciated, especially the smaller YouTubers trying to get out there and grow a little bit. So definitely appreciate it, man. And as always, later in the show, I will be opening up the show to the viewers with the stream link. I think right now it's currently in the YouTube description, but as we continue on throughout the show, you know, once y'all are able and willing to speak, man, y'all can definitely come through, chop it up. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, yeah. So anything on your mind, anything Commanders, you can come through, talk about it, all those good things. Okay, so we have a couple of items today. It wasn't like anything significantly worth monitoring outside of a couple things, right? But nothing too significant that hasn't changed over the last couple of days. So on the show agenda, you guessed it, once again, Washington Commanders. Ron Rivera and Cole Holcomb is giving Jamin Davis his props. So we're going to talk a little bit about what they had to say about Jamin Davis, and also the projection, like what's actually going on with Jamin. What can we expect out of Jamin? We're not going to go too far into that until we can see him on the field this year too, like preseason. But we'll tap into, like, I have a couple clips, I think, of him, like one good clip, one bad clip, about, you know, how he played last year and what the coaches envision him doing a little bit better this year. First thing. Second thing is that injury list. It's getting scary, man. Continues to grow. We're going to talk about some of those items, some of those names that's on that injury list, and how Washington can combat it. I mean, look, training camp is training camp. You know, if you all missed the Trap or Die podcast, or if you did listen to it, the live stream last night, I suggest you tap into it if you haven't. You know, we kind of talked about just the nature of training camp in itself, man. Injuries start to pile up. Listen, the Broncos had 2 players go down on the same day with torn ACLs. Tim Patrick is one of their more significant players in terms of his role for the offense. And he went down to injury. And then they had another guy that's blanking on the top of my head. I wasn't familiar with him, but he went down with an injury as well. But you get the picture. Injuries are starting to pile up across the league. and you're just hoping that Washington doesn't run into one of the more significant ones, at least with the notable players. And obviously injuries you don't want to see go down, because one person did, and Drew White hurt his knee, but we're going to talk about that. And then a Percy Butler update. Ben Standick of The Athletic, he checked in and gave an update on Percy Butler. So we're going to talk about some of the things that he notated with the young rookie safety. And then lastly, Carson Wentz, man. Another nugget, another not so positive nugget. But yeah, we got to talk about Carson Wentz for a second. And we'll tap into it. So let's go ahead and start off with the easier item to discuss. The injury list. So Nikki Javala of the Washington Post, she gave a little breakdown of it. And I'll read through everything, and then we'll circle back and talk about some of the more important pressing things. So I'll just read through everything and then circle back. So here we go. Nikki wrote, on Tuesday, a sizable contingent of players worked with trainers on the side field of the Commanders' Ashburn facility. Among them, defensive end John Bates, defensive end Chase Young. We was already aware of him. We was already aware of Logan Thomas. He was working on the side field as well. And then John Bates is who I read first. So John Bates has been sidelined a couple practices, I believe, with a calf injury. And then she mentioned Curtis Samuel, Troy Apke, DeJuan Neal, who's a defensive back, and then center Tyler Larsen. All injuries. Tyler Larsen's dealing with Achilles. Curtis Samuel pops up there with a hamstring injury. Now, it's important to note, because when I got this information early, I didn't even, when I put this on the outline, I didn't even notice that, he was diagnosed with an injury. Coach said that this was a conditioning thing. So he's officially listed as a hamstring on Commander's injury report, because that's the only way that Nikki Javala will put that information in her article is if there was an official injury listing for Curtis Samuel. So there is a hamstring for Curtis Samuel. That's interesting, because I sure as hell thought it was all about conditioning. Okay, so that's that. And then guard Trey Turner did not practice because of a hurt quad that has sidelined him for the past few days. And now defensive end James Smith-Williams did not attend practice because of a hip injury. And I mentioned Drew White, the linebacker, the undrafted free agent. He went down. I believe that was a knee injury, lower body injury for sure, but he went down after a play that involved him and Antonio Gibson. And then obviously Samuel, who missed the most of, she wrote, Samuel, who missed most of last season with hamstring and groin injuries, did not participate in team drills Tuesday and has participated in only a few since the start of camp. He spent most of the practice working with the trainers before joining teammates on the main field to observe the final 11-on-11 period. All right, nuggets information. I think in all, Logan Thomas and John Bates is interesting to start things off. Logan Thomas and John Bates. I don't think anything is serious with John Bates, but I do think the point of me bringing this one up is that I actually wrote an article on Cole Turner today that should be coming out at some, I don't know what time, sometime today. I would imagine midday. But with his absence, meaning Bates' absence, and obviously Logan Thomas still recovering, Cole Turner is in a golden opportunity right now, everybody. Let me turn this, hold on one second. He's in a golden opportunity right now. Like, coaches are going to be relying on him to run with the ones. Coaches are going to be relying on him to run some of those routes that Logan Thomas runs. Like, we talked about this already. So if you're familiar with the show, the morning show, I broke it down already from my side. Like, they're going to rely on they're going to rely on Cole Turner to be that absentee guy for Logan Thomas absentee, I guess, in a sense, even though that still didn't sound right. But he's going to be there for Washington. He's going to be that flexed out guy, the isolation guy, even the inline guy who's just running the routes and making plays as a receiver. And with those two out, Bates and Thomas, the coaches are going to get a lot of looks and going to be able to test Cole Turner in a variety of ways to see if he can handle certain route concepts, certain play concepts, find himself to get open against certain coverages. They're gonna test him and push him because they have Hodges behind him and they have Armani Rogers behind him. So while those two are people that they're clearly looking into and have been looking into since the start of offseason activities, Turner has the nod over both of those. So he gets the first look at everything the same way Brian Robinson in practice with Antonio Gibson. When he was hurt, Brian Robinson was getting the first look at things. Same thing continues with Cole Turner. So it's interesting to see how that thing unfolds, and I think that's a storyline that we should all be paying attention to, especially if he does live up to the bill, and also when Logan Thomas gets back, how they're going to be able to use both of those guys in certain personnel packages. Secondly, Trey Turner missing because of a quad injury. I think he missed four straight practices, I believe. And that part, when you had a center, like the center guard combo on the right side and obviously the center, I think Wes Schweitzer was playing center for the majority of the offseason, and obviously he had to switch to right guard because of Turner's absence. And while Wes Schweitzer isn't necessarily unfamiliar with the right guard position, having that mix at offensive line isn't necessarily always a good thing. Like, my concern last night I had said on the show was essentially it wasn't that like I didn't trust the starting unit altogether. Like, it's just the fact that they haven't been able to collectively play together. You have Charles Leno, who has veteran days, which is perfectly fine. Like, certain people have veteran days off, but he's in and out of a lineup. Andrew Norwell is in and out of a lineup for the same reasons, veteran days. And then you have Chase Roulier, who hasn't really participated in full team drills because he's coming back from his injury, his lower leg injury. Then you have, Trey Turner, who's actually out because of a quad. So now you have Sadiq Charles filling in where he can. You have the rookie, out of Tulane, Chris Paul. It's hard to forget Chris Paul. Chris Paul, he's in and out of the lineup, wherever he can fit in. And then obviously Wes Schweitzer, wherever he can fit in. Not to mention Keith Ishmael fitting in at center primarily. So we don't know how everything is aligning. But my thing is, with the Trey Turner injury and also the inability to kind of stack these days, I think that's the most important thing. And we'll get into Curtis Samuel for a brief second because we talked Curtis Samuel to death these past couple of days. So I'm not going to speak too long on Curtis. But the inability to stack these days together is a concerning part, because you want that chemistry, as much chemistry as you can, especially for a new unit in the offensive line. I don't know. It's hard, man. And it's really hard to see where you can go from there when you don't have an understanding of how they can play together and how they communicate together. And also the skill sets and abilities, like the strengths and weaknesses of this offensive line in terms of run schemes, being able to pass protect, like all of these things. Because when I say pass protect, I'm talking about identifying potential blitz and pressure areas, being able to communicate that. If the center isn't there to be able to do that, especially the starting center who's going to be playing majority of the time, how is that going to be communicated? Because apparently for this year, last year, Taylor Heineke was the one calling the protections. This year they want the offensive line doing it, meaning the center. So these are all some things to think about for this offensive line. And again, when it comes to injuries, and we're only talking about Trey Turner right now, that's actually hurt, and obviously to an extent, the starting center himself, Chase Roulier, he's still recovering and officially able to practice, but he's not in the lineup. When you have these mixes and matches on the offensive line, it's really hard to sit here and say that, John Matsko, whatever his name is, offensive line coach, can really align or get these guys where they need to be from a unit standpoint. It's hard to really sit here and say that you can coach every single issue out of these guys and make them a competent offensive line when you don't know what you have for a starting unit. So that's kind of where I'm at with that offensive line and the injury with Trey Turner, and then the absence or the inconsistent lineups at that unit. Lastly, like I said, we talked about Curtis Samuel to death at this point, and honestly, it's not really going to stop. Like, we're going to have to touch on Curtis Samuel every opportunity that we have, but for Curtis Samuel, again, Nikki wrote that he missed most of last season with that hamstring and groin injury, and he's barely played to this point in practice. My main thing with Curtis Samuel, and I'll continue to preach this part, is that, look, at the end of the day, when it comes to Curtis, he's not anything special when it relates to preserving him in practices. Like, there's a difference between Terry McLaurin not playing in preseason his rookie year, and then Curtis Samuel not even participating in practices. Like, and I'm gonna draw the parallel in this way. Terry McLaurin, his rookie year, we all know he didn't really play that much in preseason. We're trying to figure out why. We don't know why, and then we find out why in week 1. Curtis Samuel, we know what he can do in terms of his ability at receiver, especially in the NFL. Him playing for 4 or 5 years to this point, like, we kind of know what he can provide as a receiver. And with the injuries that he has to this point, I don't think that if you're not able to stack days, then that's more concerning than coaches saying that they have a plan for you. Like, if they have a plan for you, then that means they're aware that something's not off. I mean, something's wrong, and they don't want to make anything go off the rail any further. They don't want anything to further happen to them. And Ron Rivera had mentioned sometime last week, if not Monday, that they made a mistake last year. Like, they brought him back too soon. Like, he acknowledged that in his presser, that he brought him back too soon, and they don't want to make that same mistake again. And we highlighted, like, somebody yesterday in a Twitter Spaces highlighted that we have this world-class trainer and all these things. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, how do you even quantify that? Like, are you repeating what people say? Like, in theory, right? In theory, because I didn't want to argue with the guy, but in theory, listen, doesn't every team have a world-class trainer? Like, this is a billion-dollar industry, and these teams are worth billions of dollars. In theory, they're going to bring in some of the top trainers in the in the world, in the nation, in the country, wherever they can get them. They'll bring in a top trainer, a top athletic trainer, to make sure that these guys are at the best shape of their life, but also when they're recovering from injury, they have the more sensible return based on their knowledge as a health professional. So I don't care who they brought in, because odds are they're going to be a top athletic trainer to begin with. So I don't really buy into the notion like, okay, they have a plan and they have one of the world's best trainers or nation's best trainers. That's cool. Like, that's just speak. That's just something to hot air, like, in a sense, as it relates to trainers. Like, that's just hot air. Everybody has that shit. So I think whenever they talk about a plan, if your guy isn't able to stack days, then clearly that plan is something to prevent further issues. I mean, obviously, but prevent further issues in the sense that he's not fully healthy from whatever injuries that he sustained, whether it's the offseason or whether it's from last year. And that's kind of where I'm at with that. You just got to be aware with the situation that he's dealing with. Talking about a trainer doesn't really bother me. Talking about a plan, that doesn't really bother me. I just want to see him stack practices. That's what tells me that there's something progressing with Curtis Samuel. And if he ain't practicing, how the hell are you going to play? So stop. I mean, I get the optimism, but just, you got to be real sometimes. If he ain't practicing, how the hell is he gonna play? This ain't no Clinton Porter situation where he don't practice at all towards the later end of his career and he still hoops. Like, that ain't this. I'm trying to think of other situations. Like some of these guys, some of these veterans who don't practice, bro, they're elite players. Curtis Samuel ain't elite. He has to practice. He has to get into the offense. You can't even game plan. It's crazy how I just started getting on the rant about Curtis Samuel. But you can't even include him in the game plan if he ain't practicing. You don't trust him. You don't trust him, bro. So I'm not gonna go too far into Curtis Samuel anymore, but that's all I'm saying. Like, certain things you just can't trust these players, especially if they're unavailable in practice. So when you start seeing practices stacked together, when you start seeing the name in terms of him being available for practice and not on the injury list, then that's when you can kind of take certain things serious. And right now, if he ain't stacking practices and he ain't playing, yeah, that's it. My man Rich, bro, appreciate you checking in. Yeah, look, like I said, it's I would say it's deceit. Like, it's attempts to deceit, but at the end of the day, lies in the same vein. So yeah, man, it's an issue that's going to be monitored forever until Curtis Samuel can really play a full stack of games. And until that moment happens where he can play consecutive games without injury, without notice of injury, all those things, then yeah, that's that. Okay, so let's go ahead and transition to a positive thing with the Commanders lately. Percy Butler. So Percy Butler, I ain't gonna lie to y'all. I read this article from Ben Standig of The Athletic. But I don't know where the quotes came from. I don't know if Butler interviewed with Standig or if Butler interviewed with the pressers. But we got a couple quotes, a couple nuggets from the article that I'll present to everybody. He said he's trying to see the defense work. Yeah, man, the defense is hey, look, the defense, I like what's going on with Kendall Fuller. I like what's going on with the safeties, the communication, the back end altogether. I like that they have an idea what they want to do now. Like last year, they didn't know exactly what they wanted to do. Like they had players, but they didn't know where the players fit. Like Benjamin St-Juste last year lined mostly up at the boundary. He was an outside corner, but you know, obviously they have an idea for him to play slot, that nickel cornerback, that traditional nickel cornerback. They know that Kendall Fuller and William Jackson are the outside cornerbacks. I like what they're doing with Bobby McCain, making sure that he is exclusively at free and Cam Curl can maneuver and run around in the box. I like that they have a plan, a strong, solid plan. My boy AJ on the Commanders chopper dive side yesterday believes that they may bring in Landon Collins again. Landon is still in the area. He's still in the DMV area, Virginia mainly. That's where those players stay. He believes that Landon Collins may be back in Washington, maybe around like the first preseason game, if not after. They take a look at things. You know, we'll see. It'll be interesting if he does come back to kind of see to what level role they're going to play. I think money will play a factor if he does come back. Like if his money ain't as high as it was, or I don't expect it to be, but if his money isn't a big deal to Washington, then that may be the nod that Cam Curl needs to continue to play majority of the snaps and have Landon fit in other places. Or maybe have Cam Curl stick into that Buffalo nickel role and then Landon continue to play in the box. My man Richard said, just don't bring back John Bostic. That's hilarious. Look, Anthony Barr is in the mix. That's another thing. A lot of people aren't really looking into that. Anthony Barr is in the mix. So keep that in mind. I think that's something that, first off, that's an indication that they do bring in an Anthony Barr, that Jamin Davis isn't necessarily where they want to be, where they want him to be. But when we get into that topic with Jamin Davis, because Rivera and Cole Holcomb gave him his props yesterday in terms of his development and his growth. When we talk about Jamin Davis, you'll kind of see like what's what. Like, when we talk about it again, if they end up signing a linebacker, then a lot of the things that they were saying in the pressers yesterday was just fluff. But okay, let's get to Percy Butler. Ben Standig of The Athletic wrote, the rookie, essentially who was pegged by the head coach at the draft as Washington's potential Buffalo nickel, is avoiding repeated gaffes while also making plays. Ben wrote essentially that Percy was very aware of not doubling up on his mistakes, some of the things that he's made, some of the issues that he's made in practices. Like, coaches will talk to him and kind of relay that message in terms of what not to do and how to make a play or how to correct whatever issue, that he's seeing or that he's having, and not repeating it. So I think when you have a rookie, now I don't know to what degree this is a common thing throughout the league or a common repeated stance in training camp. I don't really know. But again, when you're this young and you're not, or you're being quoted or notated as an individual who is not making repeated gaffes and also making plays in the same time. Like, I do know the making plays part is real. I've heard people, matter of fact, David Harrison, Sports Illustrated and Locked On Commanders, he was on our show Monday, and he said that one of the people that he was keying in on was Percy Butler and that he was flying around on the field. Logan Paulson, Monday, if not, it was probably Monday. He spoke on Percy Butler, saying that he don't even know if Percy Butler is in the right position on most plays, but his speed is making up for everything because he's flying around on the field. He's getting interceptions on plays he has no business getting interceptions on. Like, there's a real situation going on with Percy Butler in terms of his speed being an eraser on the field, and that's something that's interesting. So again, the avoiding repeated gaffes while making plays is something to note, and it's something that'll be picked up on when the preseason games start, right? If he's something that, when we talk about speed, if that speed is all over the field defensively and he's also hitting, like, one of my things for him was I like how he flies around the ball, but I don't like the angles that he takes when he's actually approaching the ball carrier. Like, sometimes he takes bad angles, sometimes he's not square. Square is more important when you're in the box, or trying to pursue taking a certain angle at a ball carrier. Like, when he's not squaring himself up against the ball carrier, he's basically prone to miss tackles. So that's some things that I want to see in the preseason. Like, you can fly around the ball all you want to, but you also aren't necessarily hitting your teammates. So I want to see what he looks like in preseason. That's one thing. And then we continue on with Percy Butler through Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera mentioned that Percy's smart, very fast, very athletic. He's got a good sense about him, and he understands the game. What's going on? 757? Hey, we're gonna talk about Jamin. So it's gonna be interesting to see, what his and we're gonna talk about Jamin and show some clips about him. Some of his film from last year. 2 clips, really. I think I have 2 in particular that I want to showcase and bring to light in terms of the good and the bad with Jamin Davis. So we'll see. But yeah, appreciate you checking in. We're gonna get to it shortly with Jamin Davis. All right. So yeah, where were we at? Ron Rivera. He's got a good sense about him and he understands the game. Again, we're talking about Percy Butler right now. That's good to hear. But the next quote is something that I saw on film too, and this is actually from Percy Butler himself. So we're going to talk about that. And he said that for Washington's 3 safety look, Ben Standig wrote, Butler is battling with second-year player Derek Forrest and then veteran Jeremy Reeves for playing time. Some of the quotes from Butler himself stated, he feels like he has to get better with his on-snap footwork, not taking false steps, and then also getting better with his eyes and reading his keys more. That's what he's working on this week in particular. This week meaning the week that we're currently in, because this was a recent article, I think, published yesterday. So again, I think his processing is what kind of hurts him how quickly he is to process things on the field. He's a little late in my eyes. He'll be able to break it down in more detail. He'll be able to break his game down, obviously, in more detail. But I think that's one of the issues that I had is when you're late in processing, or you're a little slow processing with your eyes and what you're seeing. Now, I'm not saying it's a huge detriment, because obviously, moving around on the field, that's one thing. But when you're a little late, like one of the things that I noticed, I forgot what team ran it, but like certain concepts, offensive concepts, like the scissors concept was one thing that stood out. And the scissors concept is when you have a slot man, and then you have, or how's the angle looking for you all? It don't matter. You have a slot man, and then you have the outside receiver, and the slot man is running a corner, and then the outside man is running that post, and it creates a scissor. And Percy had bit as the single high safety. Obviously, you got the deepest man, and I think they were in man coverage or something like that, or maybe cover 3. And Percy bit on the corner route and left the post wide open. Now, the quarterback they were playing was ass. So he didn't really have to worry about getting beat, because the quarterback didn't even see the postman breaking in the middle. So that was a non-concern for that play. But in terms of concepts, that had happened on a couple of occasions. So it was just interesting to see how he identified some coverage concepts, or some play concepts coming his way, trying to manipulate the offense is trying to manipulate the safety, and it worked for them in terms of schematically, but the quarterback wasn't able to hit him. So yeah, those are some recent notes on Percy Butler. He's avoiding repeated mistakes. He's also making plays. Ron Rivera believes that he's a smart, athletic player and understands the game. And then obviously he's battling Derek Forrest and Jeremy Reeves for playing time. But he also acknowledges that he has to get better with not taking false steps, getting better with his eyes, reading his keys more. So that's what he's working on right now. Rich said that he watched tape of past 2 seasons. Payne usually is the one getting pushed. Is usually the only one not getting pushed around. I love Payne, but I don't think he gets enough credit. Sorry, I know you're not on that topic. It's all good, man. Hey, put whatever y'all want in the chat. That's perfectly fine. Hey, Rich, I ain't gonna lie to you though. It depends on where he's at. I don't think he took on double teams as well. I think Payne is a guy who wins with quickness at the line of scrimmage, like explosive steps going upfield and attacking in that way. I don't think he was much of a shedder. So like when he took on those doubles, or when he had to defeat a block, it's not like he can't shed. Is that wasn't his strength. He can make a tackle while being blocked. He can get off of blocks as the ball carrier is approaching him, but I don't think he was a guy who can stack, shed, tackle. I don't think that was his game. But I would just say, like, with the presence of Fedarian Mathis, John Allen did it really well for the most part. I don't think Mac Ioannidis took on double teams really well. So I wasn't really too upset with him being lost. I think Tim Settle was a guy who, just like Daron Payne, actually they both won with quickness. They both win with quickness. I like the idea of Daron Payne in terms of what he can be at the 3 technique, not necessarily having to play nose anymore. That's what big field is for. And I'm sure that they'll probably like rotate or switch up the looks. But it's just interesting to see, like, now that you have Phil in the defense, what Payne can do for Washington's defense, like what he's truly good at, and that's penetrating one gap situations, one gap defenses, and I think the B gap, I think 3 tech. I'm over here counting in my head, but yeah, I think the B gap is where he'll live for the most part of this season. Payne has a chance for a big year this year. Hopefully we bring him back. Dude is a beast when he wants to be. I agree. 757. I agree. I think that they want to bring Payne back. They said that that's on their to-do list. The issue obviously was Carson Wentz and obviously Terry McLaurin, their new deals. But I think what is being unspoken of is the fact that they have a lot of flexibility at the defensive line, right? they have a lot of flexibility in that Montez Sweat can get extended for his 5th-year option. So that'll take him under contract for 2023. Chase Young can get extended for his 5th-year option. That'll get taken care of in 2024. If my math is right, 2020, 2024. He'll get extended for his 5th year in 2024. So I think his 5th year will be played in 2025. Deron Payne can either get franchised or he can either get extended on a short-term deal, like a 3-year deal or 4-year deal. And that's beneficial for the defense as well. So there's a lot of flexibility in what they can do with Deron Payne now that they have some contractual situations sorted out. Obviously, Cole Holcomb is going to be interesting, depending on the year that he has. And that will probably be the only guy I can think of that may get franchise tagged if it comes down to Deron Payne and Cole Holcomb. Those are probably the only two. So it'll be interesting. They have some flexibility. Yeah, they can afford Payne. I think he'll be just fine. A lot of people, or I think there were some people in the moment who was concerned about his relationship with John Allen. But friends fight. Like, they're still cool to this day. They're real cool. Fights happen. So it is what it is. And it wasn't something that should really be talked about in terms of concerns. They even got the scrapping in the locker room. Like, a lot of people don't talk about that part. Like, they really got it out their system. They fought or they threw punches on the sideline, or a punch on the sideline, and they got into it in the locker room. Like, it is what it is, man. Get this shit out your system. They good to go to this day. So, bad news mission. I don't know what I'm gonna call you. I call you 757. I call you bad news. I'm gonna call you bad news. But listen, he asked us, if Landon Collins is done with this. We actually spoke of that in the beginning of the show. Landon Collins is still in the DMV area. He's still in Virginia, and it's possible that he comes back towards the end of week 1 of the preseason. And when I say possible, I want to, say that with a grain of salt, because we know through my boy AJ, again, if you watched the Trapper Dive Commander show last night, it's still available. Y'all go ahead, check in, do those things, right? If you had watched that, AJ he's in the know. He knows a few players, and I'm underestimating, or I'm underselling it. He knows quite a few players, right? But he knows about Landon Collins' situation and knows that Washington is still keeping an eye on him, and that's one of the main reasons why he's still in this area. So we'll see how that safety / linebacker situation looks in the preseason games and how the coaches feel about him. But if Landon Collins comes back, I wouldn't be surprised. And bad news, you shouldn't be surprised either, man. That's probably somebody that they're really looking forward to having on this team if things don't work out in their favor right now. Like, obviously Percy Butler has a role. Derek Forrest has a role in terms of competing. And then obviously, about Cam, and we all know about Bobby McCain in their situation. So they have 4 safeties. If any of those 4, like if 2 of those 4 don't look like somebody that they can trust, then they'll probably bring in Landon and shift Cam Curl back to his traditional Buffalo nickel role in that instance. Okay. A reminder, if you are new to the Trapper Dive podcast, Trapper Dive YouTube channel, Twitch channel, all that good stuff, make sure you are following or subscribed to the channel, man. It does help the show's growth. It is truly appreciated. And if you like what you're seeing, if you like the content, if you want to be a part of the show, always, man, you can hit the share button, or share it is what I was stumbling with, but you can share it, man. Share it to a friend, share it to your social, whatever. Like, take that 2 seconds to put it out there, help the show growth. You don't have to if you don't want to, but support is always appreciated just by tuning in. So at this moment, I'm gonna send the link. Like I always say, I'm opening up the floor to the viewers, man. The StreamYard link is in the show description, but also check the comment section right now. I'm gonna post the StreamYard link in there for everybody that wants to be a part of the show, man. The floor is open to anything that's on your mind with the Commanders. If you want to talk, you can definitely pop in and chop it up for a second. And yeah, that's that. I'll leave that in there for everybody. And continue on in the same vein, right? So let me pull up these. Where is it at? I gotta pull up the quotes from Cole Turner and Ron Rivera. Where is it at? Oh, my boy Colin, man, checking in. What's going on, big dog? Appreciate you checking in. Hope all is well. Matter of fact, good morning. Good morning to everybody once again. I gotta find these quotes. Hold on, player. Where these quotes at? Where these quotes at? Gee, man, give me 2 seconds. Matter of fact, let me just stop being lazy. Hold on, I got it. I got this thing. All right. What is everybody on this morning? What does everybody got going on today on this middle of the week, man? Wednesday. How y'all feeling? How y'all feeling? What y'all got going on? All right, got the quotes up. Open this thing up in Google Docs, and then boom. All right, boom. Got the quotes up, baby. Got the quotes up, baby. Waller and Kittle if they had a baby. Can we relax? Can we relax, please? But nah, I get it, man. I like the idea of Cole Turner, man. He's a look at 6'6", 6.5. I like what he brings to the team. I like the athleticism. Typically when you have 6'6", 6'7" tight ends, you know, you think of Ricky Seals-Jones. You think of like a Kyle Rudolph. Like the rare breeds are the Darren Wallers. The rare breeds are those George Kittles. Those guys who can move with such an athletic presence at that frame, like 6'6", 6'7". Like you don't really get people that can move like that. And even with Gronk, like Gronk wasn't necessarily the fastest individual, but you know, his frame, again, when we talk about 6'6", 240, think about if he was able to move around at 6'6", 260. And he was able to take on defensive ends, take on linebackers, put on like obviously 20 pounds, obviously, right? But mainly muscle, and he can move around in that aspect. Like that is what I want to see with Cole Turner. If he can build that to his degree, and he could take on these defensive ends, he can hit the wham blocks and smack the shit out of a defensive tackle, and he could take on linebackers. Like that's gonna make a great tight end, because now you have an athletic guy who can move as well as Cole Turner, and then you have a tight end who can block, just like with the best of them. Like you mentioned, Waller and Kittle, tight end you type of guy. Like he came out of Iowa, bruh. Iowa don't play around with that blocking shit. If you're gonna play tight end, you're gonna be in line and you're gonna be one hell of a blocker. Like I want to see that out of Cole Turner, somebody who can be able to be as versatile as him, stay on the field, because if you get taken off, obviously, you know, you're kind of that one trick pony, and you don't want to have that narrative. I mean, it's okay to be that one trick pony, especially early on in your career, but you don't want to be that your whole entire career. You want to be able to grow and develop as an NFL player. So yeah, I'm excited about Cole too. I'm not gonna lie to you, Rich. I'm not gonna lie to you. Okay, where are we at? Let's get to Jamin Davis, and let me get back to my boy right here. Hold on. All right, let's get back to that thing right there, the topic. Here we go. So head coach Ron Rivera, he spoke first about the boy Jamin Davis, and his progression, and it goes as follows. Jamin Davis's progression. You know, Rivera says, "I'm very happy with it. You see a lot of good and positive things from Jamin right now. He's much more comfortable with what we're doing and how we're doing it. He's picked up on the way we do things in terms of reads and drops. Reading through his drops and understanding the concepts is really big, and he's done a nice job with that. So very pleased. As with Cole Holcomb, He's done a nice job stepping into the mic position from the start. I'm gonna just read the whole quote because he started wandering off from Jamin Davis. Ron likes to get into his tangents, but I'll read the whole quote. But yeah, Cole's done a nice job stepping into the mic position from the start. Last year he was more of a will. Then when John Bostic, got injured, we moved him to Mike, and he really showed very well. Now's an opportunity to work on that skill set, and he's done a very good job. Then he gets into David Mayo. Mayo's gotten his opportunity. He's a big physical guy. Today was a good day for Dave. We did a lot of our big defensive stuff, so we got an opportunity. And then back to Jamin Davis. He said if he's getting more comfortable due to him identifying running lanes and covering guys. Rivera said that's basically it. Understanding the fits a lot better than he did last year. As I said, understanding how to read through the progressions of the route combinations in front of him as well. So that's from the Rivera side. My bad, y'all. Hey, look, don't knock David Mayo, man. They say he's the guy that knows exactly where he needs to be on plays. So you never know. Like if things happen and David Mayo has to come in for a pinch, man, he may not be a superstar, but at least you don't have to worry too much about him being beat badly. It may be an athletic issue with David Mayo, but we'll see. But yeah, that was Ron Rivera's side. Let's get into Cole Holcomb about. My bad, y'all. About what he said on Jamin Davis himself as well. Where are we at? So he mentioned, okay. So on growth from linebackers, David Mayo and Jamin Davis, he said David is a solid vet, always knows. Matter of fact, this is where the quote came from. Always know what he's supposed to do. And then Jamin is progressing a lot, I think. I'm proud of where Jamin is at. I'm happy where he's at. And I think he's giving me a lot of confidence. I don't have to worry about him. I don't have to think about him. He's out there and he knows what he's doing. So yeah, that's interesting. From some interesting quotes from Cole Holcomb and Ron Rivera on Jamin Davis and his growth for these guys. So before I get into the quick film nuggets from Jamin Davis that I had, some stashed items. I like what I'm hearing about Jamin, and I think again that defensive line is going to make a major difference for a guy like him. And I mean specifically Big Phil. I don't want to say that whole entire defensive line because most of these guys are only playing one gap. So Jamin Davis will be responsible for a gap altogether by himself. And we'll kind of touch on to some of the issues that he had last year. But I just think that defensive line is going to be able to make some plays, and that's going to make his job easier too. So I don't want to put all the pressure on the defensive line because I do want to emphasize the fact that gap integrity was an issue for Jamin Davis, and offensive lines and offensive coordinators found a way to expose him in some instances. And it was interesting to hear that, he was improving in this aspect. Obviously that's what you want to hear, but they specifically keyed in on his ability to improve as a run defender. Pass coverage, I thought it was okay, but obviously they're getting into the nitty gritty in terms of route concepts and being able to identify what's coming and what's going away from him, and obviously what's coming towards him after that route, that's that breaking out route, like what's coming back towards his way. So they want to make sure that he was in position and able to pick up on some of these things. So okay, OG just checked in. He said, what do you think about Dion Jones? I don't know. I ain't gonna lie to you, I really don't know. I don't know what's going on with him. I didn't even know he was, or maybe I did know he was a free agent. Let's see. Let me check in. I'm gonna do a quick Google on Dion Jones. I mean, obviously I like the idea of him. I like how he played in Atlanta. But I don't know much about him, like, to this point. Is he a free? The main for Dion Jones. I'm over here catching up. Is he still on the roster? Oh yeah. So they're keeping. So it says Falcons set to keep Dion Jones despite trade efforts. You gotta remember too, OG. Appreciate you checking in again. Anthony Barr was a topic for the Commanders, a real legitimate topic. So you don't really have to trade for Dionne Jones. While in theory it would be a good idea to get a playmaker to that regard, but you don't have to necessarily think about Dionne Jones. And on top of that, he's on a 4-year, $57 million contract. So let's see what his numbers look like. That's actually interesting. I didn't even think that he got a huge deal. So 2021, he's being paid. Where is he at? Salary. Oh, here we go. Oh, he's only getting paid $990K, but his dead cap is $17 million. So that's gonna be hard for the Atlanta to trade him. That's gonna be hard for Atlanta to trade him. But oh, I'm tripping. that was 2021. He's getting paid $9.6 million this year in his base salary. He has a $24 million cap hit, dead cap hit. So that's dangerous. I don't think they're gonna trade that man at all. Okay, let's get into the film right quick. It's not gonna be something too profound or anything like that, but let's go ahead and get into that. I'm gonna bring up. Let me go remove this thing right quick, and I'm gonna remove the banner. All right, here we go. Let's get into it. Share video file. Where is? Okay. So let's cover the good part first. If I can find it. Is this it? Ah, this is it. I found it on the first go. Okay. I don't want that one. I want this angle. All right, here we go. I want this angle. Okay. So, this is what coaches envision when they hear about Jamin Davis, and the prospects of a guy like him, right? So I wanted to show this angle in particular. I think I actually showed this one on Twitter. So now that I think about it, I showed this one already. But you kind of see what they envision. I'll play it and then we can just run it back. And run it back one more time. Like, that man is flying off the ball. And on top of that, he's defeating the block from the center, like pressing them, getting them off him. Center tried to climb on a zone read, outside zone, and he's able to easily defeat the blocker. Look how quick he's moving as well towards the sideline. Like, that speed is why they drafted him. Being able to beat the edge. I think he only got like a 1-yard gain, if not like a loss of 2, something like that. So that's kind of what they're seeing in terms of what they want to envision and why they wanted to play him at linebacker, middle linebacker in particular. But obviously Cole Holcomb was going to have that opportunity moving forward. So I wanted to show that angle in a sense to kind of encapsulate what they envisioned when they drafted the Jamin Davis. Like, he's an eraser. That speed is an eraser in the middle linebacker position. I love that part. But again, this, like I said, this is very quick. But let's go to, I think I have, let's make sure gap integrity. Is it this one? This ain't it. Remove this one. Just trying to find this thing. I got like 2 or 3. I can find this shit. Not gap integrity. Oh yeah, here it is. Okay, so this is one where, remember where Coach Rivera talked about gap integrity, and basically run fits, situations like that. So I'm gonna play it and then we'll talk about it with Jamin Davis. You don't like to see Bobby McCain missing that tackle either, but you know, it is what it is. Sometimes you miss them. But okay, this play, Jamin Davis and the whole defense is basically, they're playing cover 1 in this situation. Obviously, this is a heavy personnel for the Saints. I think they had 2 tight ends on this play. I want to say, if not 3, I'm not entirely too sure, but definitely had 2 tight ends in on this play. And to break it down from left to right, matter of fact, right to left is probably easier. So you have, I think 96 or 95 is Casey Toohill. He has, in theory, what would be the C gap. That's where he's playing. He's the 5 technique as well, playing the C gap. Then you have Jonathan Allen playing the D gap. Remember, we're talking about this is a 1 gap defense for Jack Del Rio. So you have Jonathan Allen playing the B gap as the 3 technique. Jamin Davis, look where he's aligned. He's playing the A gap. Cole Holcomb. I forgot what the techniques are for linebackers. I'm not gonna lie to you. I need to learn that. But John is playing the 3 tech. There is a technique for the linebackers. I just don't remember the name of it, but I do know their gap responsibility. And Jamin has the A gap. And so does Cole. He has the A gap on the left side. And then Deron Payne playing the 3 tech. He has the B gap. And then Chase Young, I believe he's actually supposed to be inside to the point where he's where the tight end and the tackle is. And I think that's what Cam Curl was trying to tell him before the snap happened. Was trying to tell him to get inside. But the snap happened. But again, cover 1 responsibility. That's where Landon has a man. Cam Curl has a man. Cole Holcomb has a man. Jamie Davis has a man. They all have man coverage responsibilities if this was a pass. And even still, as a run, you have man responsibilities as well. But you also have to identify the run. Like, you have to be able to be that aware. Like, it's a lot of things going on. This is everything that they know, right? So what happens at the snap, when we talk about run fits and gap integrity, everybody is fitting their hole. Everybody is fitting their gap. Cole is about to take on the blocker. And in theory, this is a wham play where that tight end at this pause where the tight end right below Jameis Winston, he has the crack back on 95. So Jamin is supposed to close down on where the A gap is. So let's go back. You see where the A gap is right now, and John Allen is in position. Jamin Davis takes the tight end. And this is all it's again, when we talk about scheme and being able to win. So it's not all, it's on the player, obviously, because you have to be smarter too. But it's also like a game of chess. Like, who's gonna fuck up? And Jamin Davis fucks up. Leaves the gap wide open. And Kamara he's not gonna miss that shit. So with Jamin Davis vacating the gap while John Allen is defeating a reach block right now, trying to defeat a reach block, because Jamin Davis leaves the gap, 75 is able to seal Jonathan Allen out. And it's easy. Like, Jonathan Allen can't do anything because he's sealed out of the play. And 75's job is easier because, he doesn't have anybody else to block. So let me go ahead and take John Allen out. And this is the lane that you get. Basically a walk-in. Obviously, Bobby McCain had an opportunity to make a play, but in theory, Jamin Davis is supposed to be where 75 is, and that's kind of the issue that they came across. 75 right there. So that's one of the issues in terms of like an example in which Jamin Davis can do run fits a little bit better. And then let me show you all. I think I did have one more. In terms of taking on blocks and things like that, I'm going to bring that one up. Let's see if I have it. Yeah, here we go. All right. So again, I'll run it and then we'll talk about it. Shout out to, I think who was that? Cordero? Was that Cordero? Nah, that wasn't Cordero. Cordero Patterson. Okay. Right to left as always. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's make sure I get, okay. So you got a 5 tech and Montez Sweat, a 3 tech, John Allen, 3 tech, or that's a backside 1. So I think they're in the under front, or over front, excuse me. That's the backside 1. So over front. You have the backside 1 in Deron Payne, and then Chase Young is still in the edge, protecting the edge. So here we go. I think it was a zone run. My bad, I'm tripping. So yeah, zone run, inside zone run to their right, the offensive right. And now you have when we're talking about one player, because I was about to break down everybody, I got to remember we're talking about Jamin Davis. My bad, y'all. So when we talk about taking on blocks on the second level, you have a climbing offensive lineman, and your goal as a linebacker, isn't to weave through a blocker. It's to defeat the blocker. So him going inside of this block or this lineman versus trying to beat him to the edge, like, you have to trust your speed, but you also have to be able to shed. And that's kind of one of the issues that people had with Jamin, or concerns that people had with Jamin coming into the league, is how does he take on blockers? How does he defeat blockers? And there was a lot of people who believed that he struggled in that regard. And this was an example of him going under a block versus him trying to defeat it. So with 77 not having to worry about him, not only does, Jamin Davis makes 77 jobs easier, he creates another lane for 25 to hit. So that's the hole right there. Again, we're talking about one player, so it's not necessarily all on him on this play. There was other people that was out of position, but in terms of making the play easier for the offense, Jamin Davis contributed to that with this moment and this motion, getting under the block versus trying to defeat it. So that's kind of where my head is at with Jamin Davis being able to defeat blocks, but also his run fits. So you want to see him take on blocks a little bit easier or better, excuse me. And that's kind of the issues that I've come across. Smaller ones, like or quicker ones to break down. There can be more in detail in terms of his strengths and weaknesses, but that's kind of what you get into when you see Jamin Davis film from last year, and you want to see what Ron Rivera is talking about. He says that his run fits are better. He's saying that his depth drops are better. He's also saying Cole Holcomb is saying that he's playing well and he can trust him more out there. So that's another thing that people aren't taking into account. Can he trust his teammate? Cole Holcomb says that he can. We'll find out in training camp. We'll find out in preseason, and obviously when the regular season starts. We'll also find out if they don't trust him if they sign Anthony Barr or another linebacker. We'll find those things out very shortly. So that was a quick little breakdown on Jamin Davis. 3 plays or 4 plays really. Was it 3? Yeah, 3 plays that shows one good strength in what they saw, and then obviously some of the issues that they came across last year that I'm sure that they were working on throughout this entire offseason. Appreciate you, Colin, for checking in. Appreciate that nice compliment on a little breakdown. Okay, so let's go ahead and close out with one thing that is on everybody's mind that they don't want to talk about, but we're gonna talk about it right now. Fellas, ladies, Carson Wentz is reportedly continuing his trend of erratic throws. Raise your hand if you are surprised with the news of Carson Wentz being an erratic thrower of the football. This is a report from Ben Standig, from his observation, but also this is something that has been a conversation for some time with these guys. These guys meaning Carson Wentz is what I should say specifically. Like, this has been a conversation from reporters, from other markets. It's always been a conversation. So I'm not sitting here within y'all need to be worried situation. I just think when we talk about what this offense can do, we need to be very aware of Carson Wentz's struggles. We need to be very cognizant of the limitations or potential limitations from Carson Wentz, because you can't talk about how great this offense can be without talking about the quarterback and why he is here and how he got here. So I think, hey, look, I get it. Crickets, right? And you're not lying, man. Everybody don't really want to talk about it. Like, from a fan perspective, I know the reporters are talking about it. Like, they're telling you what they're seeing on a day in, day out basis, and also from a practice basis. Like, they're telling you what they're seeing. And I think that's one thing that you have to take serious. Like, I think it's an underrated storyline. I asked that question again yesterday on last night's Chopper Dive podcast. Like, what are your overrated and underrated storylines? I think what's underrated is how people are brushing off some of the similar things that people have said about Carson over the years, over the recent years. Like, he's an erratic thrower. You know his strengths. You know what he loves to do. But in between that, you're not going to necessarily get a person who is always dotting you up and making the right reads every single time, or majority of the time. I think that's the better way to say it, because every quarterback doesn't always make the right read. I seen Aaron Rodgers, against the Washington Commanders last year. Watching that film, he didn't make the right reads every single time, but he made the right read majority of the time. He exposed matchups, and he took advantage of matchups. And I think one of the issues, like from like what's today, Wednesday, from a Monday practice, was Carson Wentz not taking advantage of a matchup with Terry McLaurin on a linebacker, or maybe that was over the weekend. I don't remember. But like, you have to be, as a quarterback that's trying to eat in the red zone, you cannot miss opportunities to win against a linebacker, especially when your best receiver's on a linebacker. So I'm saying all this to say, when you talk about or Carson Wentz, he's not looking that good, or he has those one moments like that people want to talk about, like those one highlight moments in practice that people love to talk about, or that circulates on Twitter. Don't let the underlying issue stay underlying. Like, take everything with a grain of salt. Take the good, take the bad, take all of that with a grain of salt, but be very aware that nothing has changed from prior reports, from other stints that Carson Wentz had in Indianapolis and in Philly towards the latter end of his career. Understand that all of those things exist right now. It exists. So if you want to hope for the best, okay, that's fine. If you think that these guys are going to come out the gates on fire, we'll see. But I think at the very least, you need to see Carson Wentz on the field for yourself and understand that what's being reported in practice is a concern. While he's hitting those deeper areas of the field, understand that there's a give and take. And these are all things that should be considered when you talk about Carson Wentz, and that there are some good and there is some bad as well. I know my grammar just went to shit just now with R and is, but it's whatever. Collins said, he sees a long strider with his front foot step causing under rotation, but an arm thrower. I see what you're saying, like upper body. Even one of those big plays with Jahan Dotson, if you all remember that over shoulder catch on the sideline, he threw that with all upper body strength, and nobody really mentioned the fact that, he really didn't have a good base when he threw it. It was all arm talent. And I get what Colin is saying. I'll leave that up there. I get what Colin is saying. So I think one thing, again, that was actually part of a problem that people spoke on is that, his base isn't consistent. His base isn't always good. So, it is what it is. But I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware before we got up out of here that, this wasn't necessarily an uncommon theme over the years with Carson Wentz. I just don't want it to go under the radar, because when the regular season gets here and everybody's hyped for the season, which you are allowed to be and which you should be, just understand that there are a lot of variables in place, and that's why Carson Wentz is a true wild card for this offense. That's it. He's just a wild card, and you have to see how he plays, and if he's able to stack these games together in terms of good performances, that's going to be major for the offense. You can see if he's a guy that's going to be able to stack really good games for this offense with the weapons that Washington has. You can see a top 12 offense in the league, just flat out. But if he's a guy who's inconsistent, my bad, damn, I was missing a money quote. But if you see a guy that's inconsistent and a guy that is going to be struggling to take advantage of matchups, or just missing the layups, like that was a common thing too. If you see that, you're looking at a team that's not going to be relying on him as much to make plays, but more so looking at a bottom half of the league offense. And while that can be 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, which is still winnable, you don't want to be in that area with a team that has the weapons that they have. So I just want to see and make sure that you all understand that there are a lot of things that's going on with this offense and stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm not going to wrap y'all up much longer. I'm out of here. As always, man, look, matter of fact, Chopper Dive, all 32 sides tonight, 7 p.m. My boy Rye, Nick, and Rick. We're talking all NFL, catching up on the league and chopping it up with the day ones. The Commanders Morning Show will be back on Friday, 7 a.m., talking whatever we got with the Washington Commanders, the latest news and information, whatever, all those things, man. Appreciate everybody tapping in. Colin, I see you, big dog. Appreciate you showing love in the chat. Obviously, OG 757, Rich, all you all. Appreciate y'all checking in this morning. So yeah, we're out of here, man. Y'all be safe. Enjoy y'all day. Yeah, that's it.